Now, rap might not be one of the musical genres I like, but I can tell you this, Straight Outta Compton is a really great film. Straight Outta Compton is yet another biopic that's come out this year about some sort of musical group. Of course, this biopic focuses on one of the most influential rap groups of our time, NWA. We get to see a little bit of their lives before the group was formed. We then get to see how the group was ultimately formed and their tour, and a little bit of the chaos that happened as they partied and went on tour and rapped and did all sorts of crazy things. And as you would imagine, it ultimately leads to the separation of the group and a little bit after. Now, I'm sure fans can get a little bit more out of this film than I did, but I believe that you don't have to like the group, you don't have to even be a fan of rap to be able to enjoy this film. The characters and the acting were all phenomenal in this film. I believe they picked the right actors to portray these real life people, and many of them really look the part as well. It's also really funny seeing Paul Giamatti in this film, because he was in another biopic about a musical artist just this year, Love and Mercy, and while he wasn't the band manager per se, he was the psychiatrist, and he was also doing some shady things, just like he's doing some shady things in Straight Outta Compton. The drama, the acting, the music, everything worked for Straight Outta Compton. There was even this one intense action scene at the very beginning of the movie. It starts off really tense, and there's a drug deal, and suddenly it becomes an action scene, and it was handled incredibly well. Now, I think there's a lot of people that complained about the runtime of Straight Outta Compton, and I was a little leery of it as well, but when I actually sat down and watched the film, it just flew by. I think it's like 2.5 hours or really close to that, but it felt like it was only 1 hour and 30. They could have gotten away with another 30 minutes, and I wouldn't have felt like I've been sitting there for several hours. It is extremely fast-paced. There's a lot of really intense, dramatic moments, and there's some really good action and really good tension, and I think that helped make the whole movie just go by so fast. Ultimately, my favorite parts of the entire film is when they actually started getting together as a rap group, as well as when they disbanded and all the arguments happened and everyone was going their separate ways. So the last act and the first act are ultimately my favorite parts of the entire movie. Even though the middle half is them touring, getting out records and all that stuff, that is fun. It's just there's a little bit too much partying, and just it's not as meaningful as the rest of the movie, in my opinion. I think all three of the major players in this film all got equal amounts of screen time. In the beginning and the middle of the film, it feels a little bit more even because you get to see them all on screen and they're all in the scenes together. But as the group starts to disband and they all start to go their separate ways at the end of the film, they all get separate screen time in a specific order. First it focuses on Ice Cube, and then it focuses on Dr. Dre, and then finally Eazy-E. Me personally, I was completely invested in all three of the storylines, especially towards the beginning and the middle, but as the end started rolling, I favored Ice Cube's story and Eazy-E's story more than Dr. Dre's. But that's not to say that Dr. Dre's storyline towards the end of the film had some really interesting moments. Like, it had some really crazy, intense scenes, especially when he's in a new record label, and that record label is like treating their own record label as a gang more so than an actual business. And some of the scenes in there are intense and freaking crazy. It's like off the wall. If I were to have any complaints with Straight Outta Compton, the only things I could think about is that, one, overall the story is pretty typical of a biopic of any sort of rock band or musical group. it hits all the same notes as you would expect. And so in that sense of the word, it is a little cliched, but and if all the things in the film are really true, then you can't really blame it for being cliched if that's what really happened. Another little complaint that I could have with the film that I personally don't know about because I don't know the band's history, I don't know what some of these group members have been in, but there have been plenty of comments of fans and people that have seen this movie that feel that certain moments and certain things have been skipped in order to focus on other things in the story, and they would have liked to see that play out in the film. I love the little cameos in this film where they have younger actors play two more iconic rappers. Yeah, Snoop Dogg and Tupac are being portrayed in this film as well, and it was a really good surprise, and they totally fit the bill. They look like the rappers, and they sounded exactly like them. Especially Snoop Dogg, because I'm not an avid fan of Tupac, so I don't really know too much about his life or how he looked like or how he acted. But yeah, that actor got Snoop Dogg completely right. And I've heard that they might have a sort of spin-off sequel where they focus on Tupac and Snoop Dogg, and when they're in this Death Row record label, which is the record label I was talking to you about. I can't wait to see that if it happens. That would be really interesting. Overall, Straight Outta Compton is fun, it's entertaining, it's very dramatic, very intense, lot of little moments of complete brilliance and perfection within the film. In the end, I am on the fence with this movie because if I did quarters of stars, this probably would get 4.25, but I don't do that, at least not for this year, so gotta be fair to the rest of the films that I've been on the fence with. I'm going to give Straight Outta Compton a 4 stars. So, have you seen Straight Outta Compton? What did you think about it? Go ahead and comment. If you haven't seen Straight Outta Compton, what is your favorite biopic of some sort of musical group? And it has to be a true story, so that's what biopic is. It's got to be true story. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.